morning from Uzbekistan. This is our second country on our Central Asian trip, and we're gonna spend the next 9 days here exploring this beautiful country. We're gonna go to Bukhara, Samarkand, these ancient cities on the Silk Road. But first, we're starting in Uzbekistan's capital city, Tashkent. Our first stop today is the Hazrati Imam complex. This square here in Tashkent is probably not as grand as the ones in Bukhara and Samarkand, but coming here for the first time, seeing this Uzbek architecture in person, I'm already seriously impressed and in awe. Just look at every single detail, carving, painting on these buildings. It's all super stunning. One of the major buildings inside this complex is the Barak Khan Madrasa. But now when we come inside, it's pretty much all souvenir shops. The most famous thing in this square is the oldest Quran in the world, but unfortunately you're not allowed to film it or take any photos. So if you want to visit, it's inside this small building and it costs 40,000 soom per person to enter. I think the centerpiece of this complex is definitely the Hazrati Imam Mosque. The mosque itself is not too tall or grand, but of course it still has a spectacular design, especially when we look up at its ceiling. We have been to many mosques on our travels already, but everywhere we go, the style and design of the mosque is completely different. This is different from the ones in Turkey, different from the ones in Malaysia. My favorite element of this mosque is its light blue color scheme, similar to the colors on the Uzbekistan flag.
感觉走进来就是一种非常的华丽，极其的繁复，但是又因为它的配色，觉得心里非常的平静。 真是极致的美学。
After a short morning tour of the complex, it's time to have lunch. For our first meal in Tashkent, we're here at one of the most famous restaurants and tourist sites, the Beshkazan Central Asian Pilaf Center. It's like this whole factory making Uzbekistan's most famous dish, pilaf or plov. Look at the size of this thing. So insane. For those who don't know, plov is a rice dish typically cooked in one giant pot, a kazan. It's served with onions, carrots, and plenty of spices. The meat choice is usually lamb, but it's also commonly made with beef. Before we try the dish, we need to take a look at how it's made here, because it really is incredible to watch. The kitchen here is so hectic. The staff is cooking, but at the same time, it's an open kitchen, so tourists are allowed to walk around inside and observe this environment. It's like some sort of organized chaos. Even though this kitchen feels very chaotic, somehow it still operates like clockwork. Everyone is very professional at their station. They know exactly what to do, so much technique involved, and they can still bring out every single dish really, really quickly. Just look at that. Everything in here is cooked with wood and fire. So standing here, it's actually very, very hot. Check out that rice sitting in this pool of oil. But it's okay. Fat is flavor. And now finally, let's sit down and eat some plov. We ordered one of their special sets. The set includes a tandir naan, achichuk, which is a tomato salad, and of course, the plov. When we put it into Google Translate, they said it's their wedding plov. There's some quail eggs, some meat on top. I think this might be a horse meat sausage. Okay, let's try this plov. The lamb flavor is extremely strong. I'm allergic to lamb, so I think I might have to take some allergy medicines after this, but it's still really delicious.
因为它这边的油还是挺重的，所以它的米就可以呈现出这种粒粒分明的口感。
Since the plov here has so many different ingredients inside other than the rice, it gives it different textures. The rice has that chewy texture, but then the other ingredients inside, such as the carrots and the chickpeas, those give it that mushy texture. So altogether, it's a really delicious bite. And if I'm not mistaken, this one over here should be a kazi, the horse meat sausage. We had horse meat in Kazakhstan already, so this won't be our first time. But for a foreigner, it's still quite a strange thing to eat. Here goes. It's actually really delicious, wow. A little bit salty, sort of like cured meat. If you just look at it on the plate and don't know what it is, you're probably mistaken it for beef or lamb. So yeah, the plov here is definitely really delicious, but because it's so oily, it's quite a heavy dish. I don't think I can have it every single day in Uzbekistan. Another thing part of the set is naan. It looks like a bread or cake sort of thing. It's really, really hard. Extremely firm, really dense piece of bread. It sort of tastes like a bagel. Personally, not a fan, but maybe it goes well with the tea.
一小小块就非常的顶饱，感觉我们还能再探索一下有没有别的好吃的馕。
Even though this wasn't our favorite dish, it's still great to see that the naans are freshly made in-house instead of bought from another vendor. Overall, a great first meal for our Uzbekistan trip. And now it's time to go visit a popular destination in its own right, the Tashkent Metro. The Tashkent Metro is one of two metro systems in Central Asia. The other one is in Almaty, but this one is way bigger than the one in Almaty. And supposedly has some of the most beautiful metro stations in the world. So right now we're gonna go check out a few of them. Opened in 1977, the Tashkent Metro feels more like an underground art gallery rather than just a train system. Up until 2018, no photos or videos were allowed in the metro because it also serves as a bomb shelter and thus is a military complex.
现在很多地铁站都已经趋于更加现代简洁的设计，这种古典又有一点繁复精致的风格很少见了。
Now, as the country opened up, the world can finally see these incredible metro stations. Obviously, we're not going to visit all of them today, but we'll definitely check out some of the most famous ones. This station over here is decorated by pictures of astronauts.
"我觉得Ali Shennaboy 这个地铁站是最好看的。一下来呢，就会看到它的地铁上面有蓝色的穹顶。一般这种景象，你可能都会以为它是在一个清真寺或者在一个博物馆，但是放在一个地铁站，真的是有点过于的精美了。
You can actually take the Tashkent Metro directly with your credit card, but weirdly, the MasterCard and the Visa price is different. With my MasterCard, it's 1,020 soom, which is insanely cheap. I mean, this might be the cheapest subway I've ever taken. But on Visa, it costs 1,725 soom. So just pay a small fee, come inside, look at these stations. I mean, you can literally spend hours just exploring the subway system here. Every single station has its own unique design. Every single station is like walking through a mini museum, walking through a mini palace. It's so incredible.
"我们现在到了塔什干非常中心的这个区域铁木尔广场，它当时是想要复兴成吉思汗建立的这个蒙古帝国，当时也是处于一个混战的年代吧。他在常年的征战中呢，就建立起了一个很强大的铁木尔帝国。之后我们就会去萨马尔罕看一下他留下的这些辉煌的遗产。 它的背后还有一个非常苏式的建筑——乌兹别克斯坦酒店，看起来像蜂巢一样，稍微有些许的密孔，但是非常的庄重的一个设计。
Something quite strange on this trip is that when we were in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and here in Tashkent, there are many of these university students who come up to us and ask us random interview questions. They say it's for a university project. This is the 4th time this has happened already. I'm not sure if this is a common university assignment for these countries.
After a short city walk in the afternoon, we're a bit tired.
The weather today is warmer than expected, so we stopped by this park to have some gelato. The 2 cups added together, it's only 50,000 soom, which is pretty affordable. But I think the strawberry flavor is not that good, so I don't suggest it. The Oreo flavor and the cookie flavor are really good. I don't know why, we both made the mistake and we both ordered strawberry flavor, and it's probably the worst one.
Day 2 in Uzbekistan, and we have one more day in the capital.
For our first stop today in Tashkent, we made it over to the Chosu Bazaar. This bazaar is really interesting because it's shaped like a circle. So this whole market is underneath a giant dome. Just like any of these bazaars in the world, it's super hectic. I think the ground floor is still mainly for locals because they sell meat and vegetables.
2楼这个区域就是卖各种干果啊、坚果啊这样的东西。2楼可能是开放给游客比较多，因为我们走过的时候就已经有很多人来让我们去尝他们摊位的东西，去买他们的东西。
It does get a little bit overwhelming when everybody is here shouting at you. There's less of that on the first floor, maybe because the vendors know that tourists probably won't come here to buy a giant rack of lamb. Compare this to the Green Bazaar in Almaty. It's not as organized, it's not as neat. On the first floor, you can smell that strong beef and lamb smell. But I do feel this atmosphere is more unique because you can feel that local nature. So it's not a bazaar, not a market completely targeted for tourism, which is good. While the indoor portion of the market is mainly for meat, outdoors they sell fruits, vegetables, and other random ingredients.
On the outside of the market, there's also a section filled with street food. I'm guessing by all the smoke, the main thing to eat here is shashlik. Just standing here, even though it's a bit hard to breathe, I can still smell that grilled meat. So let's choose a spot, sit down, and see what sort of dishes they serve here.
For lunch here at the Chorshu market, we're gonna attempt to try some Uzbek street food. But the only slight problem is that the people here do not speak any English at all. So it's really hard to communicate.
这感觉是过于 local， 我们只能用仅有的一点点俄语储备，再加上谷歌翻译，才跟店员解释一下我们想要什么东西。但是他们感觉人都还蛮 nice， 大家就是努力的沟通了一下。
Honestly, I'm not quite sure if we ordered correctly or not. But either way, our shashlik is here. I think they gave us what we wanted. 1 beef shashlik and 1 chicken shashlik. And of course, it's always served with lots of onions on top. This entire hall is filled with so much smoke. You can smell this grilled shashlik from very far away. To be honest, all I smell here is the grilled shashlik. So I'm gonna try some of this beef shashlik right now. And of course, gotta add some of the onions to it too. I love the spices and the seasoning on it. You can taste that cumin, so tender meat as well. These shashlik are always grilled with lamb fat, so I think that also gives it an extra juiciness.
好香啊！我觉得都已经算是我吃过最好的烤串之一了，而且它的肉给的超级的大块。
We only ordered 2, but we see the other tables the locals eating here, they order like a whole plate of these, like at least 5 or 6. Other than the shashlik, we also got this dish, which is called a nori. I think it has some thin noodles on top, and then also horse meat. It's a cold noodle dish, kind of like a horse meat salad. Yeah, we're gonna try this. It looks like it's seasoned with some pepper, and that's it. There's also some onions on top, just like the onions that come with the shashlik. Let's try it. The flavor of the horse meat is not strong at all. You can barely taste it. But the noodles are really chewy. They're like really thinly knife-cut noodles.
我们又发掘了它的新吃法，看到邻桌的人是把这个 nori 放到汤里面吃的哦，那就变成了汤面。It's not bad actually.
I feel like eating in a place like this, it's hard to ask them how we're supposed to eat the dish since they don't understand us at all. So we just have to carefully observe what the other locals are doing. I think I might prefer this as a soup dish. Okay, we just finished the meal. It costed us 100,000 soom altogether. I'm not sure if that's a reasonable price or not, but at least it feels okay. There's no menus or anything telling us the prices, and it's all locals eating here, and they seem to be very sure what they're ordering and how much it's supposed to cost. But either way, I still really enjoyed this experience. It felt like we were immersed into local culture, especially when the people here don't understand you at all. I don't think I can stand in this street any longer because of all this smoke. This market really is a lot bigger than I expected. It's not just that one building over there. The whole outdoor section is really massive. After lunch, we went and got some fruit. Since communication is super difficult here, we thought of a strategy. We gave them a bill, which is the amount we were willing to pay, and see how much fruit they give us. So we gave them a 20,000 soom bill, and the vendor gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oranges.
The Chorsu Bazaar is a more traditional side of Tashkent, but now it's time to head somewhere that feels completely different.
We made our way over to the Tashkent City Park. This is like the most modern area in Tashkent. It's probably the most expensive area of Tashkent as well. But surprisingly, there's no one here, maybe because the weather is not so great right now. Over here, there's a giant pool, which I think has a nice fountain show in the evening, but I don't think we're gonna wait until nighttime. This park really doesn't look like Tashkent anymore, but it does show that besides the old traditional architecture and the more Soviet-influenced architecture, Tashkent is still a modern 21st century metropolis. We're here inside Tashkent City Mall to check out the fanciest mall in Tashkent, and I can't believe they have Xingfu Tang here. Inside this store, they have a super beautiful mosaic on display. Really gives this very popular Taiwanese store an Uzbek flair to it. Another very interesting thing you'll notice in Tashkent is that over 90% of the cars here are Chevrolets. Whenever you order like a Yandex or just even look at the street, they're literally all Chevrolets. We just walked here into a random parking lot, and out of all the cars here, I think there's only like 2 or 3 cars that are not Chevrolets. The reason that people drive Chevrolets here is that the Chevrolets are actually made in Uzbekistan, so the prices are very, very cheap. This one brand of car is pretty much the entire Uzbek auto industry.
For many visitors, Tashkent serves more as a gateway to the rest of the country rather than a destination itself. For me, the frantic plov centers and the bustling bazaars were highlights, but what I loved the most were the magnificent metro stations. In the end, I think Uzbekistan's capital is still very much worth visiting, even if it's just for a short day or two.
This morning we're leaving Tashkent and continuing our trip in Uzbekistan. We're gonna take the slower train to Bukhara. It's gonna take around 6 hours. Usually if you take the high-speed rail, it takes only 4 hours, but we were not able to book it. It gets sold out like 1 month ahead of time. But at least we found a way there that's not in the middle of the night. The train itself is actually quite spacious. It's only 3 seats wide. There's 2 seats on this side and 1 seat on the other side, and a very wide walkway in the middle. Much wider than an airplane for sure. So we just dropped off our bags at our guest house, and now we're walking through the streets of Old Bukhara. This is completely different from Tashkent. First impressions, Old Bukhara really feels like a city that's lost in time. Walking through here really doesn't feel like you're walking through a 21st century city. It's like we're traveling back to the ancient Silk Road times. It's so incredible. We've literally just been walking for like 10 minutes and I'm already so stunned. Look at that madrasa behind me.
Here in the square stands two of Bukhara's most important buildings, the Miri Arab Madrasa and the Kalan Mosque. The madrasa was built in the 1500s and its name literally means Prince of Arabs Madrasa, named after an Arab sheikh who was an important leader of the Muslim community in Bukhara. And of course, the facade of the building is simply gorgeous. Every single piece of the mosaic comes together to form this perfectly elegant pattern. Today, this madrasa is actually still in use, so we're not allowed to go inside. Across from the madrasa is the Kalan Mosque, literally meaning big mosque. Here you have to pay a small entrance fee to enter.
So we made our way inside the Kalan Mosque, which is a 12th century mosque here in Bukhara, and definitely one of the landmarks of the city. Just look at this wall behind me. This is already one of the more simpler mosaics. It's so impressive just thinking about the effort needed to place each and every one of these little tiles to build this entire complex, but also just the creativity needed to design this thing.
Right now, unfortunately the mosque is undergoing renovation and restoration, so parts of it are boarded up. This renovation process is quite visible. You can see that the tiles on the bottom are newer, while the ones near the top are older. Even in modern times, it feels like a long and challenging project. I can't imagine what it must have been like to build this mosque hundreds of years ago.
If you're an architecture lover, this really is like a paradise for you.
Another stunning structure in the square is of course the Kalan minaret. It's so impressive that it even survived the conquest of Genghis Khan. The story goes that when Genghis Khan invaded Bukhara, he saw the minaret and had to lean back to see the entire 48-meter structure. At that moment, his hat fell off to the ground and thus the conqueror had to bend over to pick it up. Genghis Khan said that he never bows to anyone, but this tower made him do so. So he ordered for the minaret to be spared from destruction.
It's only our first day here in Bukhara and I'm already completely mesmerized by the buildings here. A few years ago, nobody really knew about Uzbekistan, but now, of course, it's a very popular tourist destination already. The buildings here really are a masterful piece of art. Good morning from Bukhara. It's a rather gloomy and cloudy day today. So this morning we're here at another madrasa. I've been saying this word madrasa quite a lot in this video. It's actually the Arabic word for school. Old Bukhara was one of the most educated cities in the world. There were hundreds of madrasas spread across this entire city. The whole city is this brown color scheme. The only really color you get are these beautiful carpets you see on the road, the beautiful pillowcases, and of course the madrasas. And since the city is so monochromatic, the color you get from the mosaic on these madrasas pop even more. But while the outside is really beautiful, once you come inside the courtyard, you'll notice it's just a souvenir shop now.
它一楼的这些教室或者是宿舍，这些一个个的小房间，已经完全给手工艺人和旅游纪念品店占据了。所以走进来就是变成了一个小小的市场。
In this square, there's also a statue of Mr. Nasreddin Hoja. He's an important folk character in the Muslim world. Telling stories and tales of Nasreddin is a very common tradition in this part of the world. Most of the time he's considered as an idiot or a fool, but some of his stories also make him seem smart in his own way. If you just search him up, you will find loads of stories about him, but many of them are about his donkey. So here's one random story. One day, Nasreddin lost his donkey, but he seemed very happy. So the townspeople asked him, "Why are you so happy? You love your donkey so much." And Nasreddin replied, "I'm happy because I'm not on my donkey right now. If I'm on my donkey right now, I'd be lost as well. So I'm happy that I'm not lost." With our terrible luck, it started raining outdoors. I thought it barely rains in this area. Anyways, we're here at a very pretty restaurant for lunch today, and we're gonna try some dishes that we haven't had before on this trip. Here we got a dumpling soup, a beef hot plate with potatoes and mushrooms on it, and we also got some samsas. Since it's quite warm indoors, we got a peach iced tea.
还给了我们一小碟下茶菜，小茶点吧。这个是某种糖，说不出来，但是贼甜。然后还有芝麻小坚果，这个我觉得很好吃。
I'm gonna try the beef hot plate first. We saw this on many menus in Uzbekistan, but we never ordered it. The potatoes are really good, that nice crispy grilled flavor. And the beef, even though it's super lean, it's also very tender. I like this dish.
这个叫 chuchvara， 是一种迷你的小饺子，放在汤里面的一个小饺子。
Usually when you order a manti, it's a giant dumpling, but these are very small. Sort of like a wonton soup that I'm used to. Let's try. Ooh, it's a lamb dumpling soup. The lamb flavor is ultra strong, but I think the broth is like a chicken bouillon broth, so it balances out. Our samsa baby is also here. It's literally called a samsa baby. I think it's because it's smaller than usual samsas. It's really piping hot right now. Let's try it.
热乎乎的，刚出炉的就很好吃。
That's really good. The crispy, buttery skin. The minced meat inside tastes like beef, and there's also some onions. Really nice bite.
The food at Zolotaya was great and not too expensive either. Best of all, we get to relax in this very elegant environment. There are cute decorations all over the restaurant. Altogether, an excellent meal to escape from the awful weather today.
在古城里面，每走到几条路交汇的地方呢，你就会发现有一个这样大圆顶的建筑，它的名字叫做 Talkie， 是一个完全供人们来做买卖跟交易的地方。所以走进来就会有发现，这四面都有很多的小商铺，而且它有很多的出入口，四通八达。
After looking at many of the stalls, Rika chose to buy this little coin wallet. They said the price was 60,000, but we got it down to 40,000, which is around $3. But honestly, we probably could have haggled even more, but we're not that good at haggling.
不管在这里买什么，至少都得来看看价吧。我觉得第一次报的价格肯定是有点水分的，但是花纹还是蛮好看的。
Well, I guess we can't do too much exploring today. Hopefully the weather tomorrow will be slightly better. Since it's annoying to explore the city in the rain, today is going to be a food tour day. Tonight we're going to a very popular restaurant that we couldn't even get a table for yesterday.
We're at a place that feels more like a club rather than a restaurant. It's called the Joy Lounge. If you look at the lighting outside, it's like disco ball lighting. So our food is here. We got a kutop for an appetizer. There's spinach and cheese inside. It's sort of like a quesadilla. And we also got some beef shashlik. It comes with these grilled vegetables as well. And both of these dishes come with this tomato-looking sauce. And our final dish is a qayish. The noodles in the qayish are flat, thin noodles. And on top there's some meat sauce, some potatoes, carrots, and also some yellow beans, which is very interesting. I'm gonna try the kutop. I thought it was gonna be similar to cheburek, but I think cheburek is actually puffier than kutop. So anyways, let's try it.
I feel like you can find variations of this dish everywhere around the world. It's like a quesadilla or a gazlame, but the cheese and spinach wrapped inside a bread is just such a classic combo that it always tastes good. Okay, now time for the shashlik.
Really tender and juicy meat. I love that cumin flavor in there.
它中间这里有一块羊油，羊的脂肪，我觉得可能是在烤制的时候，让它这个油覆盖到整个的肉的上面，让它有一种更香的味道。
The tomato sauce and sour onions are also a great combo with the shashlik to help balance out the oiliness.
And now time to try the qayish. I really like these thin flat noodles. This type of noodle is probably my favorite type of noodles.
Qayish is by far my favorite dish of the night. The noodles are thin, but it doesn't mush together, it still retains its shape. The gravy on top is light but flavorful. When you take a bite, the carrots and beans sort of dissolve into the sauce to make it extra delicious.
我觉得这次来这里最惊喜的一道菜应该就是这个 qayish， 因为它真的是这种少见的中亚面食主食中比较细腻的这种口感，但是就是不知道为什么它很少见，包括我们去那么多餐厅，那菜单上很少有这道菜，好像也很少有人推荐吃这道菜。
And for dessert today, we got this honey cake. The waiter told us that this is the best-selling dessert in their restaurant.
That is incredible. Medovik is such an awesome dessert. The filling is so creamy and buttery. You can taste the caramel and of course the honey. There are also nuts inside to give it a slight crunch.
I think the recipe of this cake actually originated from Russia, but today it's also super popular among the former Soviet Union countries. Overall, the meal here today at Joy was excellent. It's probably one of the best meals we had in Uzbekistan so far. And it's not like the plov and lagman you'll find in other places. I mean, they also have that here. But we wanted to order some lesser seen dishes, and it was a good choice.
它整个环境呢也是比较宽敞、比较舒服。到晚上，我们现在这个时候还有很多人在表演和弹琴，就整个氛围很到位。就是可能得提前预定一下，因为它实在是太受欢迎了。即使我们现在并不是非常旺的旅游旺季吧，它还是坐满了。所以很推荐，如果来布哈拉可以来尝试一下这家餐厅。
In Bukhara, we're staying in Everland Guest House, a small family-run place. It's nice that every morning they have a simple breakfast for us, including lots of fruits. A great way to start our day. Even though it stopped raining today, it's still very cloudy. But at least we can explore the city again.
Walking around Bukhara, you'll notice that not all of these old madrasas are treated equally. For example, this one right here, nobody is here to reconstruct it. It looks completely abandoned. Funny enough, if you look on Google Maps, this madrasa is called the Forgotten Madrasa. After like a 20-minute walk away from the center of the old town, we reached our next destination, the Bolo House Mosque. This mosque is famous for its wooden pillars and carvings on the outside. And apparently each of these pillars here are carved from one piece of wood. It seems like this mosque has not been completely restored or remodeled. You can see on the wall there are many mosaic tiles missing. And I think the fact that it's not been remodeled makes the whole building seem more real.
The name of the mosque, Bolo House, literally means children's reservoir. You can see that in front of the mosque there is a small pond. In the past, this was actually used for drinking water.
像这种水池，它的水不完全是流通的，而且完全就是露天的、敞开在这里，所以可想而知，它可能也并不是那么干净卫生了。久而久之，所以到苏联那个时期，就考虑到防止更多这种疾病的传播，他们就填埋了很多水池。这个可能也是所剩为数不多的几个之一了。看起来确实不怎么清澈。
The interior of the mosque feels like a completely different style. Once you enter the prayer hall, it's like you're in a different building with the white walls and the beautiful light in the middle. The elegant interior and the rustic, worn-down wooden exterior give this mosque a very unique look.
我们在这个清真寺门口终于找到了相对设计没有那么土的明信片。这位大哥他画的这些水彩画风景照还是挺好看的，上面可以看到布哈拉的建筑和它的骆驼商队，靠想象就回到了丝绸之路上一个繁忙的商贸城市的样子。所以如果你想要买明信片的话呢，我觉得可以来这个清真寺门口看看。
I feel like even in this rather disappointing weather, Bukhara is still very beautiful. The patterns and the architecture here really speak for themselves. But with that being said, I think you can probably finish all of the sites in like 1 or 2 days. Either way, I'm still really happy with my trip here in Bukhara, and I'm more excited to go see Samarkand in the coming days now.
After a short rest at our guest house in the afternoon, we are back out around sunset to check out the city at night.
Now this building right here is very interesting. It's the Magoki Atori Mosque. It's one of the oldest mosques in Central Asia and one that wasn't destroyed during the Mongol invasion. If you look at this area around here, you'll notice this mosque is like 5 meters lower than the other buildings. Because of its 1,000-year-old history, during the 20th century when it was sort of rediscovered, it's been submerged underground in like dirt and sand for a very long time already. That's why it's also nicknamed the Underground Mosque. So over the years, it was like this mosque has sunk into the ground, completely being covered by dirt and sand. And in the 1900s, they finally excavated it again to find the facade nearly completely intact.
现在这个清真寺只有顶上的一点点还可以看到一些它原来的蓝色的痕迹，不知道它是不是像兵马俑一样，一出土它的颜色又全部都掉光了。但是光从它门面的这些雕饰，你都能想象得出来，它曾经有多么富丽堂皇的颜色。
It's very interesting to see the different state of buildings here in Bukhara. Of course, throughout the ages, all of the buildings that stand here today have been restored at some point in time. But at least in the 21st century, some buildings like the Magoki Atori Mosque are being left in this fractured state, while others like the Kalin Mosque and Minaret are once again being made to look brand new.
So I wonder how they decide which ones to restore and which ones to leave relatively untouched. I guess both methods have its positives. If you restore a building, you get to see all the details, all the beautiful colors. You get to see how it was during its glorious days. But if you leave it untouched, you can see how history has made its mark on this piece of architecture. You can see its age. You can see how this building has evolved throughout the years. I guess it's good that Bukhara has its balance of both.
As the sun sets, the city starts to light up. And let's just say it's not what I expected.
Bukhara at night feels completely different. Once they light up the building facade, it transforms from an ancient city into some sort of modern 21st century museum art piece. This red glow makes the elegant building in the daytime feel kinda creepy at night.
It makes sense to light up the buildings at night to make them visible, but personally, I wish they chose a different color scheme. The color on the minaret seems more reasonable.
Yeah, I definitely prefer it without the lights in the daytime.
Anyways, we have one more day in Bukhara tomorrow. Let's come back when the lights are off. This morning, we're heading to a small but iconic madrasa just 5 minutes away from our guest house.
The Chor Minor Madrasa. The name literally means the 4-minaret madrasa because of the 4 towers on top of the building.
However, even though the towers look like minarets, strictly speaking, they were never actually used for a qada prayer. Instead, they are purely decorative and believed to represent the 4 major religious streams in the world. You can see symbols like a Christian fish or a Buddhist prayer wheel on the towers.
This is a 19th century building, and the madrasa itself doesn't actually exist anymore, so the building we see right here is just the gatehouse to the old madrasa.
它顶上还有一个白鹭的窝，但是现在好像已经没有白鹭了，所以他们做了一个假的在上面，挺有意思的。这里这家纪念品店卖的东西还蛮不一样的，就跟古城内卖那些都是布哈拉或者丝绸之路的主题的不一样，它卖的是偏苏维埃那个时候的一些旧物，可能也并不会特别的便宜，但是看着还挺有趣的。
It's our last morning here in Bukhara, and just as we're about to leave, the sunshine is out. How unfortunate. Our train is at 4 p.m, so there's still a little bit of time for us to walk around the city during this beautiful sunlight. For lunch day, we're inside this courtyard. It might even be an old madrasa. We're gonna have one more meal before we leave Bukhara.
我觉得它的茶很好喝。他说这个就是 Bukhara tea， 有一点肉桂的味道，很香，也是这种偏甜的茶。
The decor of the courtyard is really beautiful. I think every time we come eat at an Uzbek restaurant, the plates, the atmosphere, they all look really elegant. Our food is here today. We once again got a plov, and we also got some chicken and vegetables. We had plov many times on our trip in Central Asia already, but I feel like every time we order plov, it tastes completely different. In Almaty, when we had plov, there were lots of dried fruits on it. In Tashkent, the plov was soaked inside this thick lamb oil, so it's really oily. It's covered inside that lamb flavor. But here the plov is less oily, and I think the rice grains are also a bit longer. So yeah, one dish, you can make it in multiple different ways. Now we made our way on top of the Ark of Bukhara. Originally, we weren't planning on coming up here because the weather has been quite bad, but I guess in the sunlight, it's worth it. You can see the Khalid Mosque behind me and the madrasa as well. Coming up on top of the Bukhara Ark and looking at the old town, you really realize that the old town is quite small. To be honest, it's a lot smaller in scale than I expected it to. Maybe because there's an open area over there, it's an archaeology site. So looking at it this direction, it seems like there's a lot of empty space around the Khalid Mosque.
Besides from being a great viewpoint for the city, this fortress is of course one of the most important buildings in Bukhara. It is actually also one of the oldest, dating back to the 5th century. But of course, the Ark of Bukhara has been destroyed and restored many times throughout history. A large part of the building still remains an archaeology site. Even though Bukhara has grand architecture and was once one of the most important cities on the Silk Road, today it still feels like a very small and tight-knit community. The city feels like an open-air museum, allowing us to travel back in time and experience the hustle and bustle of this ancient center for trade, education, and religion.
We are here at Bukhara railway station, and we're going to take the train to Samarkand. This train you see behind me, that's actually the high-speed rail. You can get to Samarkand in around 1 hour and 40 minutes. We're going to take the slow train though, since we did not get the high-speed rail tickets. The slow train to Samarkand is only around 40 minutes slower, but if you take it all the way to Tashkent, it's like 2 hours slower. Even though this one is the older, slower train, I think the interior still looks quite modern. I may have booked a seat that faces the wrong direction, but it's only 2 hours, so I guess it's okay.
By the time we arrived in Samarkand, it's dark already, so we checked into our guest house and went to bed early.
Good morning from Samarkand, and check out this horrible weather. When we checked into our guest house yesterday, the owner said this is not common for October in Uzbekistan. Usually it's warm, like 20 degrees and sunshine, but today it's like 10 degrees.
Before exploring the city, we found a small eatery nearby for a quick lunch. We got some shashlik, a warm bowl of soup lagman, and some samsas. The food was good, but we didn't want to spend too much time at the restaurant since there's just so much to see in Samarkand. So let's head to our first destination of the day. This city is very famous for its 3 M's.
Other than mosques and madrasas like you would find in Bukhara, Samarkand is also very famous for its many mausoleums. A mausoleum is basically a grand structure that's built around a tomb. Our first stop today in Samarkand is the Amir Timur Mausoleum. But while the exterior architecture is really beautiful, I think you come to this building to see the interior. If you don't know who Amir Timur was, he was a conqueror and the founder of the Timurid Empire. During its peak, the empire spanned all the way from the Caucasus to India, and Samarkand was his first capital.
During his reign, Timur transformed Samarkand, the heart of his empire, into a cultural and architectural masterpiece. This capital became a center for trade, science, art, and so much more. After his death, Timur's body was brought back to Samarkand to be buried here. Timur's mausoleum, called Guri Amir, literally means Tomb of the King.
From the outside, I guess it looks sort of like any other building you would find in Bukhara and Samarkand, but when you go inside, it's a completely different story. There's an interesting story about Timur's tomb called the Curse of Timur. So the story goes that whoever opens the tomb will be faced with punishment and be cursed upon. One day, Soviet archaeologists wanted to investigate the tomb, so they dug it up and opened it. And less than 2 days later, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. Many people believe this was because of the Curse of Timur. Who knows if this story is true or not, but it's a very interesting myth regarding this place.
它在规模上看，并不像一个帝王的一个墓那样占着几百几千亩地，但是走进去之后，就会完全的感受到这个帝国它的珍宝、它至高的工艺都浓缩在这个小小的陵墓建筑之中。我觉得这应该是我看到过或者我能想象到的最绚烂又夺目的金色。从那一眼中，你就能遥想到那个帝国曾经是如此的繁盛。
Right across Timur's mausoleum, there's actually a smaller mausoleum that very few people know about. But judging by the photos on Google Maps, it looks super spectacular. It costs $10,000 to go inside, so we're gonna go check it out.
It seems like the staff here know people visit just to see the dome, so they even have a little rotating turntable in the middle to help capture the best shots. Let's see the results.
When you walk around the outside, you won't think it's anything grand, but coming in here, it's just as spectacular. When you look up on the ceiling, it's like you're looking at some sort of starry sky or a kaleidoscope.
So if you have time after visiting Timur's mausoleum, do come check this one out. It's not expensive to enter either.
We are now headed to our next destination. We were looking on the maps. There's this very long road. I thought it was going to be like a motorway, but it turns out it's more like a park, which is really nice. It leads all the way from Rikasplanet Square to the Bibi Khan Mosque that we're heading to right now. It's probably hard to tell through the image, but this mosque is absolutely massive. It was once the largest mosque in the world. Sitting here in the courtyard looking at the scale of this mosque, it's still so unbelievable how big it is.
This mosque is named after Timur's wife, Bibi Khanum, and is an icon of Timurid architecture. However, as the years went by, very little restoration work was done, and it was slowly left to ruin. A devastating earthquake in 1897 nearly completely destroyed what remained of the mosque. In the late 1970s, reconstruction finally began. But even today, such a massive project to restore what was once one of the largest mosques in the world is still not yet complete.
For example, the interior of that hall over there is still in ruins. And if we look at the two halls to the left and the right, they're really dark. When you look up at the artwork in the dome, you would think it looks like a mosaic, but it's actually painted on. So I guess it's not as intricate as a mosaic, but it's still pretty impressive. For our final stop today, we made it over to the Hazrat Kazir Mosque. This one is free to enter. And as you can see behind me, the sky is starting to clear up just a little bit. You can see that orange light peek through the clouds.
在这个视角呢，就是在高处可以看到比比哈内姆清真寺和一些城市的景观。希望太阳努力一下，让我们今天能看到一点日落。
And for the first time today, the sun is finally out.
Other than being a great place to see the city from a higher angle, most importantly, this mosque houses the mausoleum for the first president of Uzbekistan. Today when we visited, the mausoleum and the prayer hall of the mosque were closed to visitors, but we could still walk around the terrace to enjoy the scenery.
After being super disappointed with the weather all day, at least during sunset, it gave us a little bit of color. Something nice to end the day. So I guess if the weather is clear, when the weather is nice, do come up here. It's a really short walk from the Bibi Hanum Mosque. Up on this mosque really is one of the best locations to watch the sunset in Samarkand.
After sunset, we wanted to find another small street food stall for dinner, but then we realized we had no more cash, and the money exchange places are closed already.
As it turns out, in Samarkand, it's much more difficult to find those currency exchange ATMs compared to Bukhara. So for dinner, we had to find somewhere that takes credit card. We're here at this rather fancy restaurant instead of having local street food. Usually in the summer, this restaurant has a great view of the Rikasplanet Square, but I think they closed their rooftop right now during the winter. I guess we're not gonna have local food tonight for dinner. We're gonna have some other Western dishes.
Our meal here was okay, but a little bit expensive. The atmosphere of the restaurant is still quite nice though.
And for dessert, we once again got a medovnik, the Russian honey cake. This has got to be my favorite dessert in Central Asia.
Before we go back to our hotel, at 8 p.m. every day, there is a light show at the Rikasplanet Square. We're gonna go explore the square tomorrow morning, but for now, let's go check out this light show.
If I'm gonna be honest, I think this light show is a bit anticlimactic. It's literally just the Rikasplanet Square lit up into rainbow colors. I thought there were gonna be some strobe lights or maybe even some projection mapping, but no, there's none of that. I think it's just like the Khalid Mosque in Bukhara lit up, except here they play some music. Maybe seeing it for like 5 minutes enough. I think we're gonna go back to our hotel now.
This morning, our first stop is once again the Rikasplanet Square, but this time without the weird lights. We are here right when it opens to try and avoid the crowd. The Rikasplanet is an ensemble of 3 very spectacular madrasas. The square was the heart of the city and used to host gatherings and celebrations. Stepping into the center of the square, the feeling is very different from viewing it from afar last night. Standing underneath these 3 massive arches, you can truly appreciate the elegance and complexity of these buildings. I don't think I've ever seen a city square that comes close to the grandeur of the Rikasplanet.
The first madrasa built around here is the Uzbek madrasa, which is the one we are at right now. It's really interesting that the three buildings you see in Rajasthan Square are actually separated by centuries. Uzbek was an astronomer and mathematician, so it makes sense to have a madrasa named after him. He also built the Uzbek Observatory, which is here in Samarkand as well. Back then, it was known to be one of the most grand and biggest observatories in the Islamic world. Inside this madrasa today is a small museum about Uzbek and his work. So it's good that it's not just a gift shop. You can learn quite a lot about him and the history of this place.
The second madrasa built here is the Sherdor Madrasa.
The Sherdor Madrasa is a 17th century madrasa, and the design of it is almost exactly the same as the Uzbek Madrasa across the square.
While the structural facade of the madrasas are the same, the mosaic and patterns decorating the buildings are completely different.
One thing very interesting about this madrasa is that if you look up on the facade, there's actually an imagery of animals. There is a tiger chasing a deer. Imagery of animals is very rare in Islamic buildings. Usually it's banned to have any depictions of animals or humans. But here, some people believe that the tiger chasing the deer represents students chasing knowledge, and they should pursue knowledge just like the tiger is hungry for the deer.
The striped animals on the madrasa resemble tigers, but actually the name Sherdor Madrasa literally means Madrasa of the Lions. It is unclear why visually they look like tigers, but in the end they represent the same ideology. The Uzbek and Sherdor Madrasa facing each other creates a stunning symmetry in the Rajasthan. However, I think the centerpiece of the square is the newest one, the Tilyakori Madrasa and Mosque. The name literally means gold-covered madrasa, and once you step inside, you will understand why. This might just be the most gorgeous piece of architecture I've ever seen.
We've been seeing countless of beautiful mosques, madrasas, and mausoleums these days in Uzbekistan, but I still feel like every time we come into one, and when I look up at the dome structure, it blows me away. What's very interesting about this ceiling is that it's actually flat, believe it or not, but because of the design, it looks like a dome shape, so it's a very cool optical illusion.
跟其他的一些 madrasa 里面现在都是售卖工艺品啊、纪念品啊之类的东西不一样，这个里面还有一个小的旧照片展览，我觉得还蛮值得来看一看的。从这旧照片里，我就觉得看到了一个跟现在的萨马尔罕完全不一样的城市的感觉。 它以前最早的时候，在15世纪就是一个热闹繁忙的像市中心这样的一个位置，所以从以往的这些文字描述中，你就能想象得到，感觉雷吉斯坦它一直以来都是一个非常辉煌的、漂亮的、繁荣的一个地方。 但是在这个清真寺里面看到这个20世纪的雷吉斯坦广场，然后你会感觉它完全是一个残破的、晦暗的，到处都是断壁残垣的这么一样的一个形象。当然也是经历了地震，又是这里的气候，再加上连年的战乱等等的原因，雷吉斯坦包括整个萨马尔罕就已经非常的残破了。 大概苏联时期，他们就开始把这些古建筑重新的修建复原到了我们现在所见到的雷吉斯坦广场和萨马尔罕这个城市的样貌。我觉得这些建筑师跟修复师还是非常的了不起了，所以我觉得这也是一段非常宝贵的历史吧。
The Rajasthan is without a doubt the symbol of Samarkand and Uzbekistan. Before we leave tomorrow morning, the forecast predicts sunny weather again, so hopefully we can return for one final look under the blue sky. For lunch day, we're at a small cafe to try more Uzbek dishes that we haven't yet tried on this trip. This right here is a mastava, which is basically if you imagine plov as a soup dish. We also got a lagman and another dish that we haven't tried before called gampan. It looks like some sort of meat stew with rice next to it. Visually speaking, the three dishes look very similar, with meat, peppers, potatoes, onions, and a similar colored sauce as well. The mastava is actually really good, a hearty and flavorful dish. We've also had lagman so many times on this trip already, but I think my favorite type of lagman is still the soup lagman, which is what this one is. You can also get lagman like mixed lagman, dry lagman. There's so many different options to choose from. The gampan, however, was less exciting, a little bit plain compared to the other two. I think my favorite dish out of the three was still the lagman.
5000块，好便宜哦！这应该是宜家价格吧，反正比麦当劳的大。虽然说天这么冷，但是就便宜，不吃感觉好亏哦。
We also heard from our guest house owner that October is a very popular time to get married in Uzbekistan. So look at all these people taking wedding photos behind us. Usually October has the perfect weather, that's why there's so many weddings.
我们还发现这里有特别多小爱心气球，估计也是都是给这些婚纱照拍摄准备的。
But just like it's unfortunate for us, it's also quite unfortunate for them. They have to take their wedding photos in such a sad weather. In the afternoon, we plan to head over to the Afrasiyab and the Ulugh Observatory, but we're feeling a bit too tired, so we're just gonna head back to our guest house for a short rest. And I think this is a good time to give you a quick tour of the place. The name is called Musavir Guest House. Usually I don't like doing tours of our accommodation because we just stay at cheap places that are not that interesting, but here in Samarkand, our guest house is really awesome. We're in the dining area right now, and it looks like some sort of antique museum. The owner here collects so many vintage items. For example, here there are old TVs, old radios, old cameras even.
餐桌上呢有很多这种他收集的来自各个国家的纸币，从来没有见过一个在餐厅里面放了这么多书跟古董的地方。这里就有特别多他收藏的苏联时期的明信片，好精美啊！
The room itself is also very spacious. We got a family room since the standard rooms were sold out. The room, of course, feels very well decorated. Outside, there's also a very nice courtyard where you can sit and relax. As Samarkand is such an important historical city, being in this museum-like guest house really helps with that atmosphere. We paid 450,000 soom per night, which is around $35 US. For our final meal in Uzbekistan, of course, we gotta have shashlik. It's grilled on top of this very hot coal, and when I was watching them grill the meat, it smelled so good. We got a chicken shashlik, beef tenderloin, beef Napoleon, and some grilled vegetables. We also got a salad as well. The chicken looks like chicken thighs. It smells so good. Wow, you can taste the cumin seasoning, you can taste that char, and this is so tender, so juicy.
很好奇它不是怎样做到外面烤的焦焦的，但是里面又完全不柴的这种状态。
The beef is not as tender, but the flavor is still spot on. So if you like meat, Central Asia really is a great place to be. The shashlik is really delicious and really affordable too. This restaurant we're eating at right now is just next to the Rikasplanet Square. So after you browse that area, you can come here for a nice shashlik meal.
There's not too many other things on the menu. I think there's some manti and some lagman as well, but we had too much of those, so we're just gonna have the shashlik. Well, that was a pretty outstanding meal to end our evening here in Samarkand. The restaurant itself doesn't look too fancy. It's a very humble little restaurant, and there are no hidden fees either. There's no service fee. The only sad thing is that I wish we ordered more. But since now the restaurant is completely packed and they grill everything fresh, it might take us a long time to get more food. So I think that's it for today. Tomorrow we have one last morning here in Samarkand. Our flight is in the afternoon. Hopefully the weather will be good. Fingers crossed. Good morning from Samarkand, and for our first time on this trip, the weather finally cleared up. This morning we're here at the Shahizingda. Shahizingda is actually a necropolis, a series of tombs, but because of its magnificent design, it's become a very popular destination here in Samarkand as well. This complex we see here today was built over centuries, with buildings being added to it throughout time. Legend says that Shahizingda is the tomb of Prophet Muhammad's first cousin. That's why its name literally means Tomb of the Living King. Today, there are over 10 major mausoleums inside the complex, along with dozens of tombs spread across the area. The interior of each mausoleum is completely different, but they all have striking designs. But of course, Shahizingda is most well known for its intricate blue mosaics. Walking through this complex, it is as if you're immersed in a sea of vibrant colors and patterns.
现代的建筑呢，可能都是更趋于简洁、实用，可能很难像以前这样在繁复的细节和精湛的工艺上面，再花上几代人的努力、心血、金钱去建造这样的建筑。 Our trip to Samarkand and Uzbekistan was simply incredible. This is a city where history feels alive with every step. The architecture here has a certain magic to it that makes you want to slow down, take it all in, and stand in awe, appreciating every single little detail. Samarkand is a city that has evolved greatly throughout history, yet the core of its identity has remained unchanged. From a bustling hub on the Silk Road to the heart of the Timurid Empire, and now the center of modern-day Uzbekistan's cultural heritage. It truly is a timeless place that stays in your memory long after you leave.